for so long, I think I was tapped into the masculine energy within myself. It was kind of like a survival thing. I had to do it.
All we can do is set an intention, have a vision, and then just surrender to the magic of the universe, right? Welcome to the Path to Purpose podcast, where I share incredible conversations with amazing humans who went through a pivotal shift in their lives that have put them on their path of purpose, profit, and impact. My name's Zarak Fatah. I'm a serial entrepreneur and life coach. I went through my own transformational journey where I'm now committed to living a life of inspiration, education, and empowerment. My intention is to share these conversations so they inspire you to also walk your path to purpose. Today on the Path to Purpose podcast, I am excited to sit down and have a conversation with a dear old friend of mine, Carmelinda Dimanno. We go way, way, way back for those of you that know me from my previous life, from the old ZRF days, the club promoting in Toronto. Carmelinda was one of our OG promoters, hosts. You probably met her at the front door at some point if you ever came to Sunday Nights at Fluid. And we've been friends for well over 20 years. I'm probably longer. We're aging ourselves now. And Carmelinda and I, our friendship has evolved, and we have been walking on parallel paths for the last 10, 15 years. And today we're sitting down here in Miami to have a catch up and just drop in and hear what's new and exciting with Carmelinda. And she's going to share her journey of evolution and transformation as her career has transitioned from being in the entertainment hospitality space in Toronto to becoming a yoga teacher, a DJ, a retreat facilitator, and she does all kinds of amazing, wonderful things. And it's my pleasure to share my dear friend Carmelinda with all of you. So nice to see you, Monkey.
So good to see you. And I'm so happy to do this with you. I love conversations with you on any opportunity that I have. So I'm really glad that we can do this.
Yes, and we're doing it again because our last formal sit-down podcast conversation happened in Jamaica today. And yeah, that was about 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And a lot's happened over the last 5 years.
It's pretty amazing, actually, because I just came across that video that someone had found online like 2 weeks ago. I don't know. I just think it's amazing the order of things.
Right.
I wouldn't have been exposed to that if this person didn't come across, and then to have this opportunity with you very shortly after, it feels really good.
Never any coincidences.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know who you are, don't know your background, I would love for you to share a little bit about who Carmelinda was living in Toronto and the whole nightlife come up, and just your evolution into discovering personal development, spirituality, and yoga, and just what brought you to the path that you're on today.
Okay.
I know there's a lot there.
Yeah, that I could share about all of that.
You can give us the highlights.
Ultimately, my experience in the nightclub industry, to my memory of it all, was a really incredibly fun time in my life. I met you at, I think I was like 18 years old, and I worked in a retail store on Queen Street, Toronto.
Yeah.
And
Jet Rag.
Yeah, Jet Rag.
Yeah.
And I loved that we met, and you immediately asked me to partner up and work with you.
Sure.
And it was new to me, but I had been, out in the scene, and I love music and house music and dance. It was always a big part of my life. Far younger than it should have been, but I was there. And I just remember that being really dynamic, and I met so many amazing people. And I think one of the things that I love the most about having been in that industry for the time that I was is that I actually had a lot of really intimate conversations with people. So it's not necessarily a setting where you believe that would be happening, but I remember just sitting with people, on the couch, and just chatting and meeting great people. So I loved that. That was a big part of my life. The shift for me from working solely in that industry, hospitality, nightclubs, happened really organically. So I loved yoga. I did yoga because at the time I did have a lot of anxiety, and I did experience insomnia. Like, I had a lot of sleep troubles as a result of anxiety. I went to yoga because I wanted to find something that would help with that. And eventually my practice became so important to me, and I was so passionate about it, and I wanted to learn more. So I took some time off of work and went and did a training, a 500-hour yoga teacher training. And this is like 15 years ago, something like that. Didn't think I would ever move into actually teaching. I thought it would just be the experience of deepening my own practice that I was seeking. I realized I love to teach, and for whatever reason at that time, I just felt like it needed to be a hard shift, where I needed to leave one field, one industry, one scene to really delve into teaching, and that's what I did. So I removed myself really from the nightclub industry, kind of abrasively, and just dove into my work as a yoga teacher. And one of the things that was super exciting for me was this idea of how much I could still be in community and support cultivating community. I think that's my favorite thing about that work. It's my favorite thing about leading retreats, is just watching people come together and formulate friendships. I love standing back and just watching that happen, and how that brings people to life. So yeah, I think that's kind of like the initial switch between, one field to another that seemed, to be complete polar opposites.
And, it's quite interesting that I've noticed that many people in the hospitality and entertainment space, they either get into real estate or they get into the wellness space, which is interesting. And I find, most who get into the real estate space is because they have a high level of emotional intelligence from all the social interactions and from meeting so many people. They've just got that ability to adapt and enroll people. And then on the wellness side, I find that there's many people who went through some sort of burnout, addiction, some sort of situation that they got into wellness for their own personal healing. And as a result, then they transitioned into health and wellness industry, and including myself, with realizing I wasn't fulfilled, and then going on retreats and working with coaches, and then ultimately gravitating towards that. And often, people have asked me, like, how did you have the courage to leave nightlife after 25 years and get into the health wellness space? And I'm sure for you, similar, that you left nightlife abruptly because you knew it wasn't aligned, and you found something that inspired you. And when people say I was courageous to do so, it was more so I had found something bigger than myself. I found something that was purposeful, that inspired me in a different way. And that's what gave me the courage to leave. Now, given that you were in the hospitality, entertainment space, everybody knew who you were in that scene, and then you jump into the yoga and the health and wellness, was there any part of your identity that was going through any sort of like conflict, or were you torn between leaving that old version of Carmelinda to pursue this new path?
No. I don't remember that being a part of my experience, honestly. So when I say that it was very organic, I remember it being very gentle.
Yeah.
And I think it was, and I don't think there's a right path or a wrong path in any of this, but I think because it was so aligned with where I was at that time, that this transition was very graceful.
Yeah.
I don't remember having any regret or feelings of contemplation about it. I felt secure and safe in my life, and making that move, it didn't pose any threat. And I think because it brought me so much joy so fast, and because of the way things are, with respect to, leading classes, for example, and being in big groups and meeting people, people are receptive, people are communicative in those spaces. That part of me that needs to be around that and able to communicate and connect intimately with people in conversation was fulfilled really fast.
Right.
So I didn't have any conflict around that. It felt really natural.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to say that. I can imagine that it might not for somebody, I really needed a break from the nightclub industry too. And it wasn't just nightclubs. You know, I worked in hospitality planning, weddings, and other kinds of events at the time. But I started to realize that I didn't care about those subjects. And it doesn't mean that they're not important. It's just I no longer had the inspiration. Those conversations about certain things were not stimulating for me anymore.
Right.
So when I knew I didn't have to be there, I just took a lot of comfort in that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you had outgrown it, and then you found something that was inspiring and more aligned with who you'd become.
Yeah, and I was celebrating that like I could go to sleep early and I didn't have to stay up late, and I could do casual things with my time. Really, honestly, like, I loved that freedom.
And people, I'm sure you get this question, you know, sometimes when people ask like, hey, do you ever miss the old scene? You ever miss like owning those businesses or being out? And I'm like, no, I like being a customer. I go out, I have a great meal, pay my bill, go home. I'm in bed by 11:30, and it feels good because even, you know, you could walk into the busiest restaurant on King Street, and even though it's like packed and they're making lots of money, you know, somewhere there's an owner who's ripping his hair out in that venue, because when things are bad, it's stressful, and when things are even really good, it's stressful. You know, it's just an industry where it's like there's no 2 days that are the same. You know, it's a very volatile industry, and if you don't know how to manage your state and regulate your nervous system, you could end up in a bad place, which is why obviously there's a lot of addiction, drug and alcohol abuse in the hospitality scene, is because people don't know how to ground themselves and how to self-regulate, right?
Yeah. It's so overstimulating. And interestingly, I'm in the industry again, in a different capacity, and we can talk more about that after. But I see how that's so stimulating, and looking at you and the shift that you made, not only industry, but, you know, physically relocated yourself and your life and your home. You know, you moved from, you know, kind of a frenetic environment, a fast-moving city, lots of concrete, and you moved to an environment with nature and a much slower, calmer frequency.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. Most people don't underestimate the impact of the environment that they are in, because they're so conditioned. You know, for people who are living in Toronto or New York or any big city where there's just a lot of concrete and construction and noise, you need to offset and balance yourself with the nature, you know, whether it be the ocean, the jungle, the forest, whatever, the mountains. You gotta have that balance, because otherwise just the harsh elements of the city will wear you down.
I agree with you 10,000%. And I see this. I see it.
Yeah.
I see it in myself. I recognize it in my own nervous system. And it's not easy. It's not easy to stay conscious of how that is influencing you, your state of mind, and really consciously doing the things that keep you grounded.
Yeah.
But I just think it's so fundamental, because I really believe that we are of nature and we're meant to be with it, you know? So good on you that you're constantly putting yourself in these environments where you're nurtured by that, because I think it influences your state of mind, your whole vibration, and what you bring to the world.
Yeah, and the
really
work
run down.
And the work that we do with holding space for others, I mean, I hear some heavy shit day after day, you know, and taking that on, it can be energetically draining. So that's why it's so important to know, like, what does nourish you, what does help you to recharge, and having those practices, whether it be going for a hike in nature once a week, whether it be, you know, obviously meditation or breath work or whatever modalities that allow you to ground, having a regulated nervous system. I saw it somewhere, I think on Instagram, it's like, a regulated nervous system is a new sign of success, you know, because there's a lot of people out there who have a lot of money and a lot of abundance, but they are a ball of nerves, you know, and they are like one deal away from having a full-on like panic attack. And that's why it's one thing to be abundant and to have financial freedom. However, you need to have that spiritual freedom, energetic freedom. You need to know how to balance yourself, right? Yeah.
Again, I completely agree with you.
And this is what you teach. I mean, this is what you're all about.
This is a big part of what I teach, and also what I'm working through independently, you know, on my own. Things changed in my life in a pretty dramatic way. I'm so grateful for all of it. You know, pain has been the catalyst to a lot of change in my life. And again, I'm grateful for that too. But one of the things is, you know, stepping into the position of being completely independent, and how much drive I could have around, thriving in the sense of like financial abundance and prosperity, specifically in that area. And that's good stuff, and it's fundamental to provide security and safety. But at the same time, as time has passed, I've really started to evaluate just what is needed, how much do we really need in the realm of the material things and money to be fulfilled. And I think that the drive for more is making people not happy with their lives sometimes, and I've kind of reached this point where I don't have a specific number, but there's a space in my mind greater than ever before where I'm like, I look at the hours, for example, in a week that I work, and the hours that I have to enjoy my life and engage with others and spend time alone. And I see so much value in the harmony and balance. I watch people, pushing and pushing and pushing just to make more, but they work all the time, and even if you love what you do, I think that anything you do with that kind of pressure and overdoing can still burn you out,
Absolutely.
So quality of life for me has just become a really important subject.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, we have to be the example. We have to embody the work, because that is the best way to inspire other people to want to make positive changes as well. When they can feel your energy and they understand that how you feel, how you show up as a result of your daily practices, that's what inspires people to want that for themselves.
I agree. I think that people do catch on, whether intellectually they're catching on or just energetically, but I do think people catch on, So yeah, I think it is really important to consider that stuff. And everybody has their own timing and their own journey to figure things out, I'm not saying I have it figured out, but these are my curiosities in the spaces that I'm exploring right now.
Yeah, and you're being intentional with your actions, and at least you're self-aware and conscious of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your journey and path has brought you here to Miami. How's that been for you, being down here?
Joyful.
Okay.
It's been a joyful experience. It's been unexpected.
Right.
I was not one of those people that ever thought I had to move away from where I grew up. I loved it. I didn't have ill feelings towards the city I grew up in, where I see a lot of people do, not to any city specific, but people want to move from where they grew up oftentimes. I never had that. I love knowing I was close to my family. I love knowing I was close to my, most personal friends and contacts. So when this opportunity came up, again, totally organically, as a surprise, I was just going with the flow. I was going through some personal stuff, and again, pain was the catalyst to, I think, me having an open mind, because I really had nothing that I felt I had to stay for, And when the opportunity came up, I just went with the flow, and it's been such a joyful experience. Sometimes they're like little victories that you celebrate, and moving to a new country and a new city, especially on your own, there's a lot of those kinds of victories that come up on a regular basis that I celebrate. And as you can see, the environment is beautiful. The sun is shining most of the time. It's lush in nature, and the ocean is spectacular. But primarily what I'm really loving about it is my lifestyle. Just the fact that I can get up, ride a bike to where I have to be, or walk. I drive very little. I move my body a lot. And yeah, it's the day-to-day life and community that I've connected with here that brings me the most joy.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And Miami, I've lived here off and on since 1997, and it's definitely evolved and changed in many ways. And I was here last year for 2 months, as you know, and I was telling people, I'm going to give Miami a try to see if maybe that's somewhere where I can spend part of my year and do my coaching work. And for some people, they're like, Miami and coaching and breath work, it didn't add up, because most people think of Miami and they think it's very superficial. It's about the clubs and the restaurants and the festivals and the parties. And while, yes, there is a lot of that element there, there is also a growing, I would even say booming, health wellness scene here that has really started to expand ever since the pandemic, because being Florida being as open as it has been, a lot of people from California and even Europe, parts of the world, moved to Miami because of its lifestyle, the appeal, the weather, and the cultural diversity. And it's been pretty amazing to see what's transforming in Miami and how it's evolving. And it's definitely somewhere I've considered coming back to. It's just there's still that chaotic energy of people coming in every weekend to rage and get drunk and high. And I got to imagine it's tricky to find the balance and ground yourself here in this energy of chaos at times.
And yes, that is really true. And I've come to observe that there can be a very frenetic energy in Miami as well. You know, there's so much constant stimulation. I think one of the things I appreciate about being in a place with, you know, different seasons as opposed to Florida is that you're called to be a bit more at times, you know, solo or quiet or only with, you know, few people, that you might sit in your house on a really snowy night. I think that it does something to the human being to have those kind of phases of seasons, and it influences your personality, your ability to be alone, your ability to be quiet. I feel like Miami, for example, no one stays home. Like, you're constantly called out. Mm-hmm. You're always being invited out. There's something always going on, you know? And I love the people of Miami because they're super, super friendly and outgoing. But one of the things I noticed is oftentimes when I'm talking to people, I don't feel that they're very present and grounded.
Right.
So they're charming and charismatic and friendly and open, and that's all things to appreciate. But sometimes I feel like they're not totally present. And I think that might have something to do with all of this opportunity to be out. I think the weather is a part of that, as gorgeous as it is. Why would you sit in your house and, you know, get cozy?
Right.
You know, often I don't think that's what people are doing. So I'm with you on that, and I think it's really, really important here. I mean, it's still pretty new for me, but that you consciously choose, because the energy polarity is so extreme. And if you're not consciously choosing the vibration that you want to be a part of, you can be kind of dragged in a direction that, quite frankly, is a little bit dark. The party scene is intense. I mean, it goes around the clock, as you know. It never ends. And in my opinion, certain things that are maybe not totally healthy are very normalized. It's just not a conversation to evaluate whether certain lifestyles are healthy or not. It's just so normal. You know, if everybody around you is doing it, why would you think not to?
Right.
So I think this is a place where you really have to pick the frequency that you want to participate in, because as you mentioned, there is this amazing community of people that are conscious, that are doing incredible events, wellness events. There's more studios and classes to be taken in a small radius here than I've ever seen anywhere. There's a way to be healthy, but you have to choose it because the other side, and I've met a lot of people that came and lived in Miami for a couple years and then were like, I gotta go. Because they just got too wrapped up in it, you know?
And that's the thing, if you're moving to Miami from a cold country and, you know, you are indoors for 4 or 5 months during the winter, and then you come to Miami, it's like, wow, I can go out, I can wear my shorts or my skirt, or I can, you know,
or nothing,
yeah, or I'm on the beach all the time, you know, and absolutely get caught up. And I saw that when I lived here many years ago, like people from all over North America would move and just like blow their brains out, right? And to your point about seasons, you know, this past winter I spent 5 months up in Collingwood, and I never thought I would spend a winter in Canada again, and I absolutely loved it. I loved being in my little bubble, you know, lots of land around the house, lots of snow for my dog, and it was a very quiet season for me to go inwards, to focus, to really ground in, to sleep well, eat well, train well, and just taking that time to nourish myself, and knowing that, okay, I'll be in Collingwood for the winter, and then I'll be on the road for 3 or 4 months. And giving myself that space to recharge and reflect and go all in on my business, and just putting that time and energy into my priorities, because otherwise I was originally going to come to Miami for the winter. All worked out perfectly. I couldn't find an apartment to rent for 4 months. And I reflect back, and coming to Miami for those 4 months would have been a disaster, because I was exactly where I needed to be in Collingwood in order to focus and really get aligned to create what I want to this year. And I think there's something to be said and really appreciated about being intentional with your time, looking at your year, and creating those seasons for yourself where you're taking however long, 1 month, 2 months, 4 months, to just focus on yourself. And you don't have to run off to Collingwood or some cabin in the mountains to do it, but
It's a really ideal way to do it, though.
it is ideal for sure. And I definitely will see myself doing that again. Like I now understand why writers will go rent a cabin up north for 2 months and just go all in, because when you're in that zone and you're just not distracted and you're focused on your art, your craft, your business, you get exponential results in a shorter period of time, because you're just focused and present. And in an environment like this that's hyper stimulated with all these distractions, yeah, it's hard to make things happen. I will say, though, on the flip side of that, though, being in Nosara, which is a very feminine energy, very flowy, very much about Pura Vida and the beach, I found it very hard to tap into that masculine, alpha-driven energy. So it's interesting how we need to be conscious about our environment and the energy of the different environments in order to optimize ourselves. And it could be you want to optimize your health, or optimize your relationship, or optimize your business. You need to figure out which environments allow you to tap into those resources that will help you to expand. And I'm just learning about that, because being nomadic and on the road, I can work and travel and live wherever, but I'm really understanding what environments help me to thrive, and then what I need to avoid. Like, I couldn't live in Miami. I can come for a week or two at a time, but I don't think I could live in Miami and still like show up the way I want to for myself and my clients.
Yeah. I think it's amazing for you to, have the ability to even be aware of that's your inner dialogue on this. I just think it's incredible. And your situation and your ability to travel and do the work that you do is such a blessing. I think it would serve people very well, but it is a blessing that is your opportunity.
Yeah.
And I do agree with you. I can see something super beautiful in an environment, but I have to think about how it stimulates me.
Yes.
And for one thing, I do love the ocean. But I have to work harder at being grounded around ocean. It's actually not a very grounding force for me.
Okay.
The movement of the ocean is very stimulating. My energy is I have a lot of energy. I do, as a person. And so what I find really amazing and where I feel really anchored is in the environment of mountains and trees. Like that's my happiest place. The thing with that is some of the other aspects of life that I love don't always come easy with it. I'm very social. I do like to be around, different cultures. I love the grit of a city. I find it, very charming to be around people of different, cultures and vibes. So yeah, this is where I'm at right now. I do my best to not say anything is absolutely permanent, because I've learned that most things
life can change on a
absolutely
dime.
not.
Yeah.
And it's okay. But right now this serves me, and I'm just following the flow, as much as possible. This has unfolded easily. So to me, that's a sign that it's the right place at this time. So I'm going to nurture it. And for every opportunity it has to give me while I'm here. And then I don't know. We'll see what continues to evolve.
Yeah.
But the idea of you being in Collingwood, at that time, knowing that you were there and seeing some of your photos, there were times where I was just like, damn, I was craving it. I missed it this year because I haven't had that in like 2 years.
Yeah.
So I miss it a little bit. I like the quiet that comes from a lot of snow.
Yes.
Like the way it absorbs sound and how
Yeah.
good that is for meditation.
Yeah, and I fell in love with winter again, being in a town like that because, yeah, hiking with Samya in snow-covered trees on a path, no one around, that silence. And as much as I enjoy the ocean and the palm trees and the sun, the beach, I was able to connect to the beauty of the cold and the different type of trees, the forest, and you know, just being able to be in the cold but still find the beauty and the appreciation of that.
There's so much beauty, and there's this thing that happens for me. I don't know if you've experienced this, but when I'm in environments like that, outdoors where there's a lot of snow and a lot of tree, there's a different kind of quiet,
Yes.
in the atmosphere, and it helps me feel connected to myself. I just feel more harmonious. That's not to say that I want to live in that all year. I think navigating through it, if you have to, you know, on a daily basis, is not easy. Your scenario was very ideal,
Right.
to kind of pocket, like just place yourself there and tuck yourself away for a bit, you know? Yeah, anyway, good for you. It looked beautiful.
Have you spent much time in British Columbia?
I've spent a little bit of time in BC,
Okay.
and I do think it is one of the most incredibly beautiful places in the world.
It is one of my favorite
I love
spots
it.
for sure.
Yeah.
And just given that you like mountains and ocean and community
Yes.
and a bit of a city element, I mean, that is Vancouver. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I
Yeah,
do
it's
love
somewhere
it.
I've thought about as well. The only problem is the time zone. 3 hours back, but yeah. I still don't know where that spot is, although I gotta say Medellin really checks a lot of boxes. I really enjoyed my time there, so that might be the spot next winter. And it's a choice. It's a choice, right? I mean, yes, I am in a fortunate position where I can live and work and travel wherever, and I made a choice to choose to change my career so I can change my environment. And one thing I was very clear on when I was transitioning out of nightlife and contemplating what's new, I said, I want to work where I want, when I want, with who I want. You know, I wanted location freedom, I wanted personal freedom, and ultimately I wanted financial freedom. And that's what helped me to make choices that are aligned with now having the freedom to do what it is that I do.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's the epitome of manifestation, you know, which is another subject that I'm so intrigued by and read a lot about and devote time to. You know, you got really clear, and then things landed in a way that supported your highest vision, you know, and I think being able to see that so precisely and articulate it so precisely is a big part of why you've achieved it. I think sometimes people don't spend enough time getting clear on what they want. So if you're not articulating it, you're not really putting it out there. And so good on you that you were able to do that.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we already know the answer of what we want. And it's when we let the external influences confuse us that we then lack that clarity. And for me, I just knew that I feel best when I'm in nature.
Yeah.
I'm here to serve and want to live a life of purpose. And I need to choose an environment that allows me to thrive in a way that I feel inspired every day. And obviously for everyone, it's different. For some people, they love living in a condo tower with a beautiful view of the city, or they want to live in a, you know, a modest home in a suburb. You know, there's no right or wrong. It's just whatever nourishes you. However, it is important to be very conscious of your environment and know that, you know, it will either support or deplete you in ways, right? So when it comes to, you know, trusting your instinct, making drastic life choices when things suddenly change, and the whole concept of manifesting and creating your life, you've been on this interesting roller coaster journey that's brought you here to this place. And, you know, you seem, you know, from what I know, obviously very happy. You have, your freedom, you're doing what you love, and it seems to have all worked out perfectly for you to bring you to where you are right now. I'm curious to know, like, what are you calling in or manifesting next?
Okay. I am a very happy person at this time, and I just want to say that I'm still, I don't think anybody's ever, and I don't say this in a negative way, I think it's like human, you know, perfectly happy with perfectly, absolutely everything all the time, you know, so like I still have ups and downs, because life sometimes has ups and downs. One of the things that's really, really inspiring for me right now that I'm working on is I just basically registered a business. The thought came to me as just flash. I'm a big believer in miracles, and I love house music. So I just launched a brand of which I'm going to be nurturing a lot more moving forward, called Miracle House. And Miracle House embodies all of the things that I'm passionate about. So I'm producing music right now. I'd like for that to evolve, and something with music will be a part of Miracle House. And my events will be Miracle House, and my retreats will be Miracle House. I want to create my own methodology, movement method that will embody all of the different things I've studied. So I've studied, various styles of yoga like Kundalini, Hatha, Vinyasa, breathwork techniques, something called body art. And so I want to create something that blends everything I've studied, and that will be the Miracle House method. So this is my next thing that I want to be directing more energy towards as far as creation goes. In the last year, the way things have unfolded, I can be very honest with you, a lot of it didn't feel intentional, and I don't say that from a negative place. It was all a gift. Like everything that happened, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna nurture that because it was just presented to me as an opportunity, and I'll nurture that because it was presented. That this last year and a half or so was very much the result of a big change, a sudden change. That was a difficult situation. But right after, it's like the universe just said, it's all good. Like, here you go.
Yeah.
Here are some things that are going to, take you out of this state and frequency, and probably the reason to why you've been taken out of this state and scenario that you're in.
Yeah, because the universe will give you signs. It starts with whispers, then it starts with yells, and then it starts with the cosmic slap, and from what I know, it got to a point where it's like, okay, you can't not see it. And it was time for change.
I didn't know it at the time. So I do agree with that. I didn't know it at the time.
Right.
I was perfectly content, but at the end of the day, I love my life now. I have seen every stage where there was that kind of like scenario that maybe wasn't the most pleasant. I look back, and every single thing that ever happened brought me to a higher state, and a higher state, and a higher state. Internally connected to myself, and literally the nature of my lifestyle and my life. So yeah, I'm grateful for all of it.
Something that's been coming up in conversation lately, and of course, again, never coincidences, sound, frequency, vibration, and the healing capabilities of certain frequencies of music. And I've been going down the conspiracy rabbit hole of how certain frequencies are being used to manipulate people's vibration. And this is prevalent in hip hop, in certain genres of music that are very mainstream, because the frequency of the music has an impact on our emotional state, on our nervous system, and because people listen to music all the time, obviously music makes people dance, music makes people angry, makes them sad. There is such a profound impact on people's emotional state, which impacts their vibration and frequency, which impacts their health, their ability to attract or repel certain things. And I would love if more artists would make music that was in the frequency, in the resonance of love, joy, bliss, gratitude. You know, even like the lyrics, like back in the day, classic house, you know, the Promised Land, and all these songs that talked about love and connection and togetherness and unity, and now the music that's out there is just so dark and just so uninspiring, you know. And I think there needs to be a revolution when it comes to music. There needs to be more awareness to the fact that a lot of the music that's played on the radio is actually not healthy for us.
I'm excited to hear you say that, because with Miracle House, one of the main things for me is actually creating music that still music will dance to, of a higher frequency, and I'll call it conscious music. I want to get better and better at that and produce that. So, you know, there's music out there that you can find that I believe was very consciously made. A lot of it's for, you know, the space of meditation and yoga classes, but I would like to see more of that consciousness going into dance music, electronic music. So I'm with you 100%. Do I think it's intentionally being done? I don't know. I mean, I can definitely go down that road, but I also just don't know. Or if it's just what we do sometimes as humans, which is kind of just follow the path. You know, if something is mainstream or a certain sound seems to be what people are buying and are receptive to, then it's just, you know, we're just going to keep doing that instead of breaking that and being conscious and choosing and creating something different. So, yeah, I'd love to see that too. And I really, really want to participate in being a part of it.
Yeah. Because I feel like music that helps to uplift people, to inspire them, to shift their emotional state is obviously going to be popular. It's going to be in demand. And I feel it's almost like the secret recipe, the formula to creating, you know, hit music. And I think the frequency is 428, if I'm not mistaken, 420 or 428. I'm not sure, but there is.
I think it might be 432.
I think
it's 432.
432. Okay, 432. Yeah. So, can you incorporate frequencies of 432 in your music?
My intention is to do that.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is part of what Miracle House is. So
the
yeah,
foundation.
we'll see. It's
Love
brand
it.
new, and
And you released a track recently.
I released a track recently. It's not 432, but
okay.
I love it, and it's my first record. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just having fun with it, and I'm doing it all with a light heart. You know, I'm doing it with a light heart. My creative energy, I get kind of every couple of years, I feel like I have to do something different to channel my energy. So I take on different things just to do that. And how it evolves is kind of in the hands of the universe, which is not something totally separate from me.
Right.
I trust that we have a very, you know, intimate relationship and co-creation. But again, the way I'm holding that is like pretty light and gentle. And open-hearted and open-minded to see what happens.
Beautiful. And obviously that is all we can do. Set an intention, have a vision, and then just surrender to the magic of the universe, right? Yeah, and without trying to control, especially in the creative process. We can't try to make it exactly the way we think it's going to be playing, because then that's actually not the best way for creative ideas to evolve, right?
Yeah, you don't want to get too headstrong, you know?
Right.
To be a bit more spacious.
So when we chatted last on a podcast, it was 5 years ago in Jamaica, pre-pandemic. Life was very different. You know, here we are today in 2024. What do you think we'll talk about in 2029?
It's a very good question.
Where do you see?
I mean, just off the top, my first instinct is I know we're going to be in a completely different destination because we seem to physically move around a lot. Yeah, I'd really be delighted to be speaking about the growth of community and the way in which the things I'm passionate about are still serving people, and you know, it'd be really beautiful to be in this space of feeling, you know, deep peace and deep harmony, you know, and to be able to share on that. I think we're always, you know, working towards greater inner harmony as human beings. And yeah, like the ideal state for me is just soft harmony, internal harmony and peace. So I'd love to be able to say that you and I are talking about our achieved state of that.
Beautiful. I love that. Well, I look forward to having that conversation. I have no doubt that as you continue to walk this path and dive deeper into yourself and expand your self-expression, you're going to touch more lives and continue to just be that light for so many, because I see how your friends and people in your community, you know, they gravitate towards you. Everybody's always super happy when you come home to come and dance to your
really
music. Sweet. And yeah, it's been beautiful to witness your evolution and growth and to walk this parallel path with you. And I'm looking forward to our collaborations, you know, what we've been talking about, how we can bring together.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
do it. We have so much to share, and I honestly feel that we speak such a similar language. You know, our history is so similar, so I'm really excited to do that too.
Yes, me too. And you know, I feel that we're doing the same work in our own way, and there's a lot of complementary, call it skill sets and whatnot, between who you are and what you do and what you're passionate about. And yeah, I'm excited at the possibility of what we can do together. So yes, let's lock it in.
And I'm going to say something else about that. You know, there's this conversation right now that's, and I'll make this quick, but speaking to, you know, the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and the masculine in leadership and really, and I'm just so intrigued by it. You know, these two sort of energies, and how when, you know, people are really grounded in the harmony within themselves of those energies, what you can do together. So, you know, I think that masculine leadership energy in you is really a beautiful thing, and you're showing the world. I think you're really supporting men by exemplifying, embodying that. And I'm exploring the divine feminine more, because for so long, I think I was tapped into the masculine energy within myself. It was kind of like a survival thing. I had to do it, you know, and I never really thought about it. I just did what I had to do. So being conscious of it now and seeing how the harmony of those two energies, what they can create together, is really a fascinating thing to me. So let's collaborate.
Yes, absolutely. Because for me, tapping into my feminine and nurturing that side of me is music, is dance, creation, and I have no doubt that when we collaborate together, there'll be lots of great music and lots of dancing and lots of healing for everybody involved.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm a Taurus, so I like the finer things in life. We have to have some good food in there too.
Well, I'm a Leo, and I'm all about the fine things. Well, let's make it happen. We definitely have to sit down and pick some dates and start co-creating together.
Amazing.
So stay tuned, because Carmelinda and I, we have something cooking, something we're working on. I think May is a good month. Just going to figure out which date in May. Yeah, so let's make it happen. And then we'll have something else to share about. Who knows, maybe 5 years from now, the podcast will be about this global movement of dance and healing and breathwork and meditation that we created.
I love that.
Also, what's the name of your new track?
My new track is called Let Me In. And you can find it everywhere. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, Apple.
We'll put it in the show notes down below so people can link it. What was the inspiration for Let Me In?
Let's talk about that another day.
Okay. All right, well, stay tuned. We'll have to have part 2, and Carmelinda will talk about Let Me In. Well, thank you, dear friend, for being here to join me and sharing yourself.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm glad we had a chance to drop in and connect. And yeah, let's do more of that.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you enjoyed this podcast and you learned something valuable, then please hit subscribe so you don't miss the future episodes. I'd love it if you share this with a friend and leave us a review. Your feedback is so important to our growth. Thank you for supporting the Path to Purpose podcast. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next episode.